Folks, welcome back. It's another episode of Boomer Deepcuts presented by Kohl's RX. I'm your host, Grant Hansen. Glad to have you back with us for another week as we take another deep dive into some music from the 60s and 70s. And this week we've got a little bit of a new twist on the show's pattern. We've got a soundtrack of a movie from the 70s, but a lot of the music is from the late 50s. So this is a really, really fun episode we've got planned for you this week. Before we go any further, I want to thank Kohl's RX for sponsoring us. You'll hear a little bit more about them and their services that they provide later on in the show. And now I get to introduce my guest. He is the ultimate, I don't know, utility man. A utility man might be disingenuous because he is the guy that gets you, if you're a Boomer listener, to where you need to be in the morning as quick as you can and as safely as you can. He is the co-host of Wiggies in the Morning with Dave Wingert. Welcome, Chuck Denver.
Thanks,
for the
man.
first
This
time.
is cool.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Last week was crazy, filling in for everybody that was out. But
and here you are filling in again.
Here I am filling in again. And I kind of went outside the norm of like a particular group. I picked this not just because it's a double album, but it's full of great music that I actually grew up with. Mm-hmm. When I was 8 or 9 years old, I remember back when we had little 8 transistor radios, glued to my ear, listening to 95 Kim in Denver, and I just stumbling onto this movie was total accident, and it actually kind of pushed me about 10 years after I saw it to get into radio. So it means a lot to me.
Well, I'm excited to hear a little bit more about the American Graffiti soundtrack, which is our album today. This is a great choice, and I was really excited when you chose it because it provided the new challenge for me in terms of doing the research, because there's a lot to this that's super impactful in terms of the actual film itself and the content of the movie, and then the songs on top of that, which we'll hear today.
Right. It was kind of a coming-of-age thing for George Lucas, too, who they made this movie for like $770,000, not even $1 million. So a lot of the production houses turned him down. So George Lucas got together, and it's just a fabulous film. It's a coming-of-age thing. And the cast in it, incredible. It was like people that became stars after the movie. You had, I go, that's Harrison Ford. And Richard Dreyfuss became one of my favorite actors. Ron Howard, of course, the spinoff was Happy Days, which was one of my favorite shows, too, when I was in high school. And Cindy Williams, who went on to be in Laverne and Shirley. Suzanne Summers, One Day at a Time. She was the blonde in the T-Bird. Just so many stars in this one. Mackenzie Phillips, who was part of One Day at a Time. Paul LeMat, who played the very cool John Milner with the 32 yellow Deuce Coupe. It was a total fluke. I think I was a sophomore at the time in high school, and a buddy of mine called me and he said, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, "Well, not much of anything." He says, "Well, Jeff's working at the theater at Cinderella City, so he can get us into the movie for free." I go, "Well, what is it?" And he goes, "Oh, I can't remember the title, but it's about some kids graduating from high school or college or something." And I'm like, "Okay, if you're driving," I said, "I'll go." And so I got there, and the movie opens up, and I'm like, "Oh, I like Bill Haley and the Comets." And then in the next scene, the opening at Mel's Drive-In at night with all those cool cars. I'm a car guy, and the film just resonated with me because I listened to all that stuff when I was a little kid, and I'm like, this is cool, cruising Main Street and stuff. I want to go do some of this. So it was just to me, for a while, I thought, I was born 10 years too late. I go, this would have been so much fun. So we did our own cruising when I was in high school, but it was a lot different.
That was one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and we'll get into that here in a second. So this album eventually becomes certified triple platinum in the United States.
Yep.
Peaks at number 10 of the Billboard 200. Here's some of the other songs that are on this, which we won't hear today, but that I recognize. I'm like, there's so much good music in this. Notably, not included Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
Because RCA wouldn't give them the rights to include it. But Ain't That a Shame, Fats Domino, That'll Be the Day, Barbara Ann, Johnny Be Good, Green Onions. I mean, there's so many great different hits that are included in this soundtrack of this film.
Yep. And I like the way they worked it into whatever was happening in the scene. Like Candy Clark, who I met just a few years back when I had my 64 Impala at the World of Wheels car show. She was there signing autographs. And she's sitting outside waiting for Terry to go in and get some booze. And it's Lee Dorsey's, sitting in waiting for him. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then Chantilly lace by the Big Bopper when Toad finds it's not his car. It's Ron Howard's car, but he's trying to steal it back. And the guys that stole it come up to him and tap him on the shoulder, and he turns around and it's like, hello, babe. And then the fight ensues. So, yeah, it's and Milner, ultimate cool, driving the car around, and you hear at the beginning of the movie, he's talking to Richard Dreyfuss, and you hear this car peeling out in the background, and Richard Dreyfuss, Kurt in the movie, says, oh, John, somebody new in town. You going to go see who it is? And John says, hey, if he can't find me, he ain't worth racing, right? So it was just one thing after another, and it just resonated me with Wolfman Jack in there.
Yeah.
When Kurt goes out to the radio station, he's riding around with the Pharaohs. I mean, back up a little bit, and they kind of caught him sitting on one of their buddies' cars. So now he's got to do an initiation fee with the Pharaohs.
Yes, so you have this gang called the Pharaohs.
Yeah, and it was Bo Hopkins. He was pretty cool too. And so they're driving around, and Kurt looks out the window, and here's Suzanne Summers in a white 57 T-Bird, and she mouths the words, I love you. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what? Wait, hey, who was that? And, of course, he tries to find her through the whole movie and ends up out at the radio station, and which I thought was unusual that the door to the radio station was open. So he just walks in, and he doesn't know that the guy that's on the air is Wolfman Jack. And he says, I got a dedication. Would you try and pass this off to the Wolfman? Are you the Wolfman? He says, nah, this is the Wolfman. He puts in a cart and plays some of the liners. And the magic part about this is when Kurt leaves, he looks through like a production studio up front, and he catches just a little narrow window of Wolfman Jack being Wolfman Jack. And I'm like, you can be two different people on the radio? So it was, it just resonated with me because, like I said, I listened to all that music after I moved from Denver to Ames, Iowa. I bought the album, and I was listening to it, and all my buddies are listening to Deep Purple, Zeppelin, Foghat, Montrose. And I go, I like all those, but I just fell in love with the music all over again. Music was always a part of growing up. The household that I was in, my dad was into a lot of that stuff. He would cram 5 LPs onto his Gerard changer and turn it on the weekend. So I wasn't really musically inclined. I was a drummer because all the notes are on one line, so I didn't have to read music. But I just thought it was a magical time. The motto of the film was, "Where were you in '62?" I was 5.
Where were you in 70? So in 73, you were in Denver, right? I mean, you kind of got into that a little bit.
Yeah.
I always like asking that of our guests. Is just, where were you when this came out? So you were in Denver at the time, sophomore year.
I was in Denver. I was working at that time I was probably a short order cook, busboy, dishwasher at a restaurant there in the Littleton area. And like I said, I hung around with these older guys, and we went to see this movie. And being a car guy, I think I had just got my license. I was 16. My first car was a 64 Corvair Spider. It had the turbocharger on it, and I know it's kind of a geeky, nerdy car, but we bought it for $100, and I wish I still had it.
Yeah,
because we totally went through it. I did the $39.95 Earl Scheib paint job, which they made us sign a release form when we left there, and I asked my dad what that was about because we did our own body work, and he said, well, I had to sign a release saying that he doesn't want people thinking they're going to get that good of a paint job for $40. So, yeah, it was just a magical time for me. I really loved the music. I listened to it over and over and over again. And like I said, the multiple artists in that. Now, there was a second one that came out, More American Graffiti, that wasn't as good. The movie wasn't as good, and the music was, but I bought that album too. But this is the one that kind of launched my career into radio and music.
You touched on it earlier. Less than $1 million for the whole film. The budget $777,000 equates to about $4.5 $1 million in 2023's dollars once you adjust
Right.
for inflation. And then the return was $200 billion in box office.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how close. And I think when we do so many of these different hits and so many different episodes we've done, and they're true in music, and it's certainly true in TV and movies, but how close some of these great hits come to not being made and not getting across
Right.
the finish line is mind blowing.
Yep. And At the Hop was another one of my favorite songs. And I don't know why they didn't use Danny and the Juniors, and maybe they couldn't get them, but Flash Cadillac and the Continental Kids did a great job. And what a great scene, the sock hop in the gym. So yeah, it was just awesome music, and I still love it to this day. And thank God for Boomer.
Yeah, I know it. A couple of other notes on the film. Francis Ford Coppola. So this goes for him right in between The Godfather Part 1 and The Godfather Part 2. Godfather Part 1 was 72. This came out in 73. 74 is Part 2. And his attachment of his name to the film was one of the things that helped get it made in the first place. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about, I want to dive a little bit deeper into Wolfman Jack.
Okay.
Because there's a line that I don't remember if he says it or somebody else does, but Wolfman Jack is everywhere. Wolfman Jack isn't, right? And
That's was one of his liners that he used. He's everywhere.
It's crazy because today he very much is everywhere, and he's not with us anymore. He's on Boomer on Saturdays, and he is everywhere.
Yeah, and he actually broadcast, I think, just across the border in Mexico because of the FCC licensing. I mean, this radio station was so powerful. I mean, people were picking it up in the Midwest. And so, in fact, one of the guys in the Faroes said, I think he said he saw a broadcast from a spaceship or something. He's he's everywhere, man. He can pick him up everywhere. He just rotates around the earth. And so, yeah, it was I think it was XERB. I can't remember how many thousand watts it was. It might have been 50,000 clear channel type signal. But yeah, he was everywhere. He took a lot of phone calls. He actually did outgoing phone calls to pizza places and stuff, and would play with people's minds. So yeah, it was just a cool. I think the persona. I don't know that he started out as Wolfman with that voice, but eventually he morphed that into a character, and it just carried him to Midnight Special and all that stuff in later years.
Did you were you aware? How aware were you of Wolfman Jack before this movie?
Was not. I guess I would say was not.
And then did you seek him out after you saw the movie? And okay, I want to hear more of this guy because this is cool.
I kind of like, okay, where's this guy now? And then I make the move from Littleton to Ames, Iowa, where I listened to the record a lot, and cruising there in my '64 Corvair downtown Main Street. We called it Scooping the Loop because Main Street was one way from east to west at that time, and then we would duck into the parking lot behind the businesses and then come back up and go around again. And I was in the back lot of, behind all the businesses. I was just tuning my radio, and I picked up 59 WOW, and I'm like, there's Wolfman Jack. And so, yeah, it was like, cool, he is still around.
Yeah. Tell me more about the cruising side of things. I mean, how different was that in the early 70s compared to how it's portrayed, in the movies in the 60s, which you didn't get to experience?
Right. The 60s looked like a lot more fun. I mean, kids were out and driving the main streets there. In Ames, it was, there weren't as many of us, I think, cruising Main Street. But it was kind of a place for us to hang out. And I know that was a pretty big deal here in Omaha, hanging out on Dodge Street. And eventually they put up signs. I don't know if you were here then.
I don't think I was.
No cruising from this time to this time because they wanted to cut down on that. But yeah, cruising back then, there were, I didn't hang with the cool guys that had the 68 Firebirds and the 55 Chevys. And I was kind of like a 64 Corvair. It was kind of like I was not an outcast, but I was, was kind of a nerdy car. A lot of guys didn't really know about them. But my friends that I had thought it was a really cool car. So it's not really a car you pick up chicks in, but with bucket seats and a 4-speed.
Hey, let's do some of the music, right?
Yeah.
This is the first song off the top of not only our list, but in the movie as well.
Yes.
Rock Around the Clock. And I've got,
1, 2,
this is the
3
Bill
o'clock,
Haley
4
version.
o'clock,
Yes.
Rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock. We're going to rock around the clock tonight. Put your glad rags on. Join me hot. We'll have some fun when the
And this is just, I mean, this pulls you right in, right? Like that open is classic.
Yep. And you got a guy playing stand-up bass, and they're just having a good time. And what a great song. I always refer to it as a song that kind of launched rock and roll.
It is. Well, and so that's the other thing. So I was looking this up before. Depending on who you talk to, this is the first rock and roll song. Mm-hmm. Depending on who you Rock and Roll Hall of Fame says no, it's Rocket 88.
Sure.
But depending on who you talk to, this is kind of the first ever real rock song.
Yes.
So and this is interesting too. So the song comes out in '54 originally, and then at the time the Billboard magazine had 3 different setups for what they considered their charts. So they had bestsellers in stores, most played by disc jockeys, and then the most played in jukeboxes. So then eventually that all got distilled into one list. The thing that was really crazy, I think this is to me, well, there's 2 things about this. On the label, because it was hard to sell this as rock and roll. On the label of the original album was sold as Novelty Foxtrot, was what it was called. And then this is what blew my mind, I think, the most. It was written by a 60-year-old man, nearly 60-year-old man, Max Friedman in Philadelphia, wrote the song in the 50s that became something that was, absorbed and enjoyed by generations of young people.
Right. And my folks, they have since passed, but they were such great dancers. My dad was 6'3", my mom was 5'3", and always liked to lead. But I remember, distinct memory, I put this on in the house in Ames there because I had some friends over. And I said, watch this. And I put that song on. And my mom and dad were jitterbugging in the living room. And I'm like, how cool is this?
Yeah.
And it just launched rock and roll for me. Just all the music in the movie just resonated. And I can't find the album. I know I got it at home, but I need to pull that out. And I have to go get a turntable again because I sold all my dance stuff. But I played this at all the wedding dances that I did. And a lot of this music I did. And I remember playing, might be one of the songs we're doing later, the Skyliner, Since I Don't Have You. I played that at a wedding reception I did at Creighton. And I had a couple of people come up and go, what is this? Who was that? And so it was kind of, they were older than me, but I was kind of reintroducing it back into the genre there. But what a great time. I mean, and Bill Haley and the Comets had multiple hits. See You Later, Alligator, Shake, Rattle, and Roll. Like I said, my buddies and I were rocking and rolling to 70s bands, and I'm like, well, these guys kind of paved the way for all these other guys. So, it was just a fun.
One other weird note, Danny Cedrone, who was the guitarist for that song, he made $21 for his work on this track. $21. And then, sadly, passed away like 3 weeks after he got the $21.
Really?
From like a fall.
Oh, I did
what
not
I read.
know that.
Yeah, I was doing some research. Hey, folks, while we had a break in the action, I wanted to say a few words about our sponsor, our friends at Kohl's RX. Now, you know that Kohl's has been taking care of your pharmaceutical needs for a very, very long time. But did you know that they can actually help make your home a safer place to live as well? We were just talking last week with Chuck Yates about the value of a grab bar. Super simple thing. Super easy to install, and yet it saved him so much suffering, literal pain, suffering, and then financial hardship that comes with a serious fall. You can just go reach up and grab that thing. Now, look, that's just scratching the surface of what Kohl's is able to do for you to make your home a safer place. So please, if that's something that you need, or perhaps you know somebody who needs it, reach out to them today and go ahead and see if they can take care of you and solve some of your needs in your home as well. I bet they can. So again, huge thank you to Kohl's RX, and now back to the action. Hey, next is 16 Candles, and this is the Crests version, released in 1958.
Happy birthday.
So another iconic open.
Yes.
I love you so. 16 candles. Make a lovely life.
Jerry Lewis went on to cover this song in 1986. Peaks at number 2 in the Billboard Hot 100.
This was, the opening with Bill Haley. They're at Mel's Drive-In, but it's like dusk. And so they cut away after some conversation. And then this just, boom, it's nighttime. There's like a 58 Corvette, I'm like, look at all these cool cars. You got car hops on roller skates, delivering the food to the cars. That fascinated me too, because I grew up with the A&W root beer stands and I don't remember them on roller skates. Maybe there were some, but I just thought, what a cool place to hang out. And like I said, it just in your face, boom, it's nighttime. Look at all these cars. And that song comes on. So,
yeah, for me, that song reminds me the most of one of my favorite songs from this period of time, which isn't from this period of time, really, in Earth Angel.
Oh, sure, the Penguins.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that song I love. And I think that's, again, from if you're, I guess, cutting out 16 Candles as its own sort of genre or type of music, that I think fits in there and is my favorite from that group. So.
I'm a sucker for harmony. That's why I love all that doo-wop stuff. And, of course, Eagles. The Eagles, that was my very first concert in Ames, Iowa. It was right after Joe Walsh joined them. And They broke up. I can't remember what year they broke up, but everybody asked them, "Oh, you guys get back together, do another tour?" And they said, "When hell freezes over," and that became the name of their
tour,
their resurgence, their tour. I have the DVD of the Hell Freezes Over in Australia. Oh my God, they sound better than they did in the 70s.
Well, and they broke up. Producer Cam on the dot every time. July of 1980 is when they broke up the first time. So. Next is At the Hop from Danny and the Juniors, which is 1958 for this one as well.
And this was actually Flash Cadillac and the Continental Kids.
In that, yep.
Oh.
Well, you can rock it, you can roll it, do the stop and even stroll it at the hop. When the record starts spinning, you chill it, so when you're chicken at the hop.
So this song stays at the top of the U.S. charts for 7 weeks in 1958, which is the longest of any song that year. And they actually, for 4 of those weeks, it held Great Balls of Fire off the top of the charts from Jerry Lee Lewis, who actually never ended up having a number 1 U.S. hit.
Wow. Yeah, and this, I wasn't familiar with sock hops. And then I asked my dad about that, and he says, well, you weren't allowed to wear street shoes on the gym floor. So they wore socks. And the dances that the kids did back then, of course, and if I was driving around in my Corvair, songs like that come on, and your foot just gets a little heavier on the gas.
No doubt. It's funny, we played this song, I told you this, in junior high jazz band in high school. I would always, mentally would always confuse the beginning with Barbara Ann, because we played that in junior high pep band as well, so... let's see what else. I think that is most I've got on that song. Hey, cut 4, you were talking about playing this song at weddings and that sort of thing. Since I don't have you
slow
from
dance
the
record.
Skyliners.
Oh yeah, it's a great song.
It's another song right there. Transport.
It's a make-out song. Come on.
It transports you right to the diner right away.
Oh yeah, it's a make-out song. I mean, and it just, again, there's the harmonies. It's kind of that Philly sound, that doo-wop sound, and I never grew tired of listening to it, and I still don't. It's still good stuff. That's what I like about being on the air here. Is sometimes I get to play some of my favorites.
Yeah, there you go. Joe Rock, by the way, he wrote that song at a stoplight.
Really?
Yes. While he was upset about a girl who had just left him.
Okay.
He wrote the whole thing between stoplights in the car.
Wow.
So later covered by Guns N' Roses in the 90s, Art Garfunkel as well.
Yes, he had a great
and
version
others.
too. Yeah.
So there you go. There's 4 of our cuts from really a host that we probably
They're
could have
all
picked 10
good. Yeah.
at least.
Oh yeah.
From this album. So, hey, we always close by doing some, not quite this day in history stuff, but just running over some of the things that happened in that year and see if anything jogs your memory.
Okay.
So, August of 73, We'll go in chronological order here. August 2nd, George Brett makes his debut with the Royals, go on to a Hall of Fame career for him.
Wasn't into sports that much, but I know who he is.
August 3rd, Stevie Wonder, he releases his Inner Visions album.
Okay.
So that had Higher Ground on it.
Oh, sure.
Don't You Worry About a Thing was on that one. And then 3 days later, he gets involved in a passenger crash and goes into a 4-day coma 3 days after that album's release on the 6th. On the 8th, Vice President Spiro Agnew comes under fire for reports about getting kickbacks from government contracts.
Okay.
August 17th, another baseball one for you, but Willie Mays hits his 660th and final career home run.
To say, hey, kid.
And then the 28th of this month ends up being a pretty significant day in music history. So August 28th, 1973, Smoke on the Water goes gold. Monster Mash goes gold that same day, which is funny to me. For whatever reason, I'm thinking it should have been in October.
Should have been in the 60s, but they're getting people prepped for Halloween.
Yeah. And then August 28th, Let's Get It On is released.
Marvin Gaye.
All three of those on the same day.
Wow.
Top songs from August of 73. That month we had The Morning After from Maureen McGovern.
From the Poseidon Adventure.
Touch Me in the Morning from Diana Ross and Brother Louie. And then the top album was Chicago 6, or I don't know how else you would phrase that, but the 6th Chicago album. And then you had 1 week there where Jethro Tull's A Passion Play had the top spot. But other than that, it was Chicago. The top film was American Graffiti. High Plains Drifter came in towards the last week of the month.
Clint Eastwood there, yeah.
And then here are the top 5 shows by ratings for the year of 1973.
Okay.
Let's see, actually, let's try this. I wonder how many of these you can guess.
Okay.
Ahead of time.
Happy Days?
Nope, I don't have that one on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
1973. I'm trying to think if there were any cop shows at that time.
Technically, one would count.
Was it, I want to say maybe Mannix or Rockford Files?
So we had Hawaii Five-0.
No.
That was 5th.
Yep.
MASH was 4th.
Oh, great series.
Sanford and Son was 3rd. And then CBS had the top 2 spots with The Waltons and All in the Family. All in the Family was the top
That
rated
was
show
a
of the
great
year.
show. Of course, you couldn't do that show nowadays, but what a great show with Carol O'Connor. Goodness gracious. Yeah.
So there's some of your pop culture. Later on in 1974, so this is for the year 1973.
Okay.
The Sting, they won best. That was Best Picture that year in 1973.
Did see that movie, yes.
And then George Lucas was runner-up for American Graffiti for Best Director for that year's Oscars too. So
It's just a fun movie. Let your kids watch it. I mean, there's nothing dirty in it, and like I said, it launched the careers for so many people. And I don't think I realized the Harrison Ford thing until Star Wars came out. And I'm just like, this guy looks familiar. And, of course, like I said, Cindy Williams and Laverne and Shirley. Candy Clark, Mackenzie Phillips, Wolfman Jack. And Richard Dreyfuss did so many great movies, too. And I think in this movie, too, they also used a lot of locals, like the 2 guys from the Moose Club that give Kurt the, I think it was $2,000 check or whatever. They were just a couple of local guys. And so they used a lot of locals in the movie. And like I said, it pretty much chronicled the early days of George Lucas in Modesto, California.
Yeah.
Down through the valley there. And I guess there were Mel's drive-ins, down all through the valley, but it was just a fun movie. I'm glad I went to see it. I took my dad to see it. My dad was a cop. This would have been probably late 40s, early 50s. And there's a scene in there with a cop car that involves a cable. And I don't want to give it away in case you haven't seen it, but I took my dad to that, and he laughed so hard. He goes, how did they get away with that?
I do want to ask you, I guess it's an older movie, 1973, so I guess we could probably spoil it. I wonder what you made of the end, the epilogue, and what ends up happening to some of our main characters off screen is, fairly dark, but also I think representative of the time because of when this was set, right? The movie is set in 1962. It's months before the Cuban Missile Crisis, before JFK is assassinated, and before the war in Vietnam.
Yeah. I thought it was sad that I think Terry was missing in Vietnam, which he comes back. He gets found in American Graffiti too. Steve becomes an insurance salesman. And I can't remember if Milner was killed by a drunk driver.
That sounds right.
I think so. But yeah, you have the Kurt on the plane taking off, and they kind of have their pictures come up and what happened to each one. And I'm just kind of like, ooh, no, don't ruin it for me.
Yeah.
And of course, it didn't really happen, but what a great story. Just kids, friends together, having a good time the night before they take off to college. And funny, at the beginning of the movie, Kurt tells Ron Howard, Steve, that he says, well, I don't think I'm going tomorrow. Because this is their last night in town before they go to college. And as it turns out at the end of the movie, Steve is staying for a year, and Kurt is on the airplane going to college because he and Ron Howard and Cindy Williams end up getting married, have kids, that sort of thing. So it's just a fun movie. And I'm still really impressed that a lot of young people know this music. They really like it. I mean, the lyrics are good. You can understand the words and the music. And like I said, that was just such a fun time to be in high school. So,
well, Chuck, I really appreciate you sharing.
Thank you for letting me be a part of the
group. Oh my
group.
gosh, I knew we had to do this eventually, and so we picked I think a really good time for it. And you picked a great album. I love doing this, being able to talk about the movie simultaneously and the history of that with the music. Especially when the music and the movie are essentially 20 years apart.
Sure.
I mean, it's really, really cool. And I appreciate you sharing all the stories that you got to share. And
I'm glad that you appreciate the music too, because your age group, a lot of I've never heard of these people.
Yeah.
But I like the way you dive in and do your research and your homework. And like I said, if you haven't seen the movie, it's probably out there on Netflix or something. And I think the double album, well, you can probably get it on CD now or at YouTube.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, he's Chuck Denver. This has been another episode of Boomer Deepcuts presented by Kohl's RX. We'll be back with you next week with another episode and another guest. And until then, I'm Grant Hansen saying so long, and we'll see you next week on another episode of Boomer Deepcuts.